Fez is a mysterious city, a holy and an aristocratic city, in an incomparable setting at the bottom of a valley with a river running through its heart. In the past, it was an important center which attracted Moorish exiles from Spain who have given it part of its special distinction. Towards the end of the 8th century, precisely 788, there arrived from Mecca a man of great saintliness. He was the Sharif Idris ibn Abdullah ibn Hassan ibn Ali ibn Abu Talib, fifth descendant of the Prophet Muhammad, accompanied by his friend Rashid. He settled in the Zarhun area where the local tribes recognized him as their leader. 2 months after his death, his wife, from a Berber woman named Kenza, gave birth to a son who was named after his father. Idris ibn Idris was proclaimed Sultan at the age of 10 to found the Idrisid dynasty. The small town of Walili, the site of old Roman city of Volubilis, became too small to be the capital of the country, so Idris II decided to found his own capital in 808. He laid the foundations of a new city called Fez. The historian Cartas said the spot attracted the founder because of its abundant fresh water supply and its verdant setting. It so happened that the foundation of Fez coincided with the area when King El Hakim was reigning in Cordoba. The latter cruelly drove many families out of the Umayyad kingdom who took refuge under the protection of Idris II in the city he had just founded. It's said that about 8,000 families came to settle in Fez on the right bank of the river. Their quarter became known as Al Adwa El Andalus, a name it still has today. Later, other families came attracted by the piety and goodness of Idris II, this time from the city of Karawan in Tunisia, so that the population swelled further. They settled on the left bank of the river, and their quarter became known as the Alqaraouiyine. Thus, from the outset, the population of the town was split into two, with different customs and traditions, half of them from Spain and the other half from Africa, living in districts separated by the river and joined by the Bin al-Mudin bridge. Moulay Idris II died fairly young at the age of 38. His achievements were considerable and he is still remembered with great veneration today. In the Zawiya, or museum, named after him, his tomb every year draws huge crowds of pilgrims who come from all corners of the country. Fez was later influenced by the Zinata tribes, Berber tribes, the Almoravids and Almohad dynasty, and by the Marinids who ruled Morocco at the time when another wave of Muslim immigrants came from Spain after the Christian reconquest. The Marinid monarchs had been ruling since the beginning of the 13th century. After invading northern Morocco, they took Fez and then dethroned the last Almohad ruler, who was replaced by their own chief Abu Yahya, who became Sultan of the north. The Almohads were reduced to ruling southern Morocco only. From their capital in Marrakesh, which was taken in 1268 by Yusuf Yaqub Abu Yahya, successor, hence the Almohads disappeared and left the Marinids in power, so that their authority soon extended over the rest of the empire. What was Fez like under the Marinids? We can judge from the account left us by Leo the African. Hassan was then born in Granada in about 1483, a historian and writer, who told a time was a Christian convert under the name of Leo Africanus. He was in Fez at the beginning of the 16th century. Briefly, he said Fez was composed of two distinct towns, New Fez and Old Fez, a distinction which remains today in the names of Fas el Jadid and Fas el Bali. The author wrote especially of Fas el Bali, a large city with high walls containing over 700 mosques, and where there was a plentiful water supply. He gave a detailed description of the famous Qarawiyine mosque with its 35 doors and tall minaret, Faz el Bali, souks, markets, madrasas, and sanctuaries, the Medina Abu Anania, La Medersa Abu Anania, notably for its clock. It's the last and the most important of the Marinids Medersas in Fez. Fez is famous for Medersa Al Bu'anania, notably for its clock. It is the last and the most important of the Marinids Medersas in Fez. Souk al Attarin, souk of the groceries or the grocers with its multitude of booths with scented displays. In the Najarin Square, all the back of the square, you will find the Funduk Najarin dating from the 12th century, whose entry is decorated by a magnificent porch roof, and to its right the famous fountain decorated with zelish tilings. Zawiya Mulay Idris, it shelters the tomb of Mulay Idris, the second founder of the city. It remains the holy place of the city. Al-Qisariya is the commercial center of the important cities. In the unbelievable maze of narrow streets are sold mainly local products, most of them related to clothing, cotton goods, silk, brocades, babouche slippers, etc. The Madrasa al-Attarin, it was built in 1323 under the region of the Marinese sovereign Abu Sa'id. It's considered, despite its reduced dimensions, as a masterpiece of the Marinese art in Fez. Alqaraouiyine, founded as early as the 9th century by Fatima, daughter of Muhammad al-Fihri. Place of Safarin, near the Qarawiyyin place Safarin, where numerous braziers perform their art, leads to the Madrasa bearing the same name. It dates from the 13th century under the Marinid epoch. It was the first Madrasa built in Fez. Mosque al-Rasif, Al-Andalus section, the Madrasa Saharij, the Mosque of the Andalus, the Potter section. It considers of workshops on both sides of streets edged by walls. Faz Jdid, the walk through the city requires about 3 hours. The place of the Alawites, the main street of the Marinids, it crosses the old Millah of Jewish section. It's very lively. Babs Marine, a high door with numerous arcs. It constitutes the present entry of the section Fas Jdid. The Makina, this old weapon factory was built at the end of the 19th century under the reign of Alawi sovereign Mulay Hassan I. Dar al-Batha, Place al-Basha al-Baghdadi, the Kasbah of the Filala, Bab al-Mahrouq, Dar al-Batha, Bab Bujlud. This door decorated on one side with green enamel and on the other with blue enamel. Only dates from 1930. One arrived first to the square bearing the same name, bordered by the old Kasbah of Bujlud, built by Sultan al-Muwahhad Muhammad al-Nasr, 1100. Today, a common dwelling section, Al-Qarawiyyin among the inhabitants of the